Look at the ghost park footage flooding TikTok right now. Silent squares, empty queues, restaurants half occupied. Main Street strangely calm. People think Disneyland Paris is collapsing. But the terrifying truth is far more calculated than anyone realizes today. Disneyland Paris is not dying financially. In fact, management reports show the opposite direction completely. The park is quietly transforming itself from a crowded family destination into an expensive premium ecosystem designed for fewer but wealthier visitors. The old Disneyland Paris was built around a simple emotional promise. Ordinary European families could briefly escape reality and enter a magical world together. That emotional accessibility was once the foundation holding the entire Disney empire together. But in 2026, that emotional philosophy is disappearing faster than ever before. Today, the park operates more like a luxury airport terminal controlled by algorithms, dynamic pricing systems, and spending categories instead of genuine human experiences anymore. Fewer visitors now actually benefit Disney's financial structure. Smaller crowds reduce operational pressure, cleaning costs, staffing burdens, and ride maintenance stress. Meanwhile, premium packages, expensive hotels, and VIP access programs generate significantly higher spending per guest every single day. This is the new business model quietly reshaping Disneyland Paris. Disney no longer needs millions of middle-class families flooding the gates daily. Instead, they increasingly prioritize visitors capable of spending aggressively inside their controlled entertainment ecosystem. Across Europe, economic pressure continues intensifying in 2026. Inflation still hurts household budgets. Airfare remains expensive. Hotel prices continue rising. Families now calculate every vacation decision carefully because ordinary leisure spending has become financially exhausting for millions. That economic reality directly impacts Disneyland Paris. What once felt like a reachable dream for average European families increasingly feels like a luxury experience, reserved for upper-income tourists and wealthy international travelers seeking exclusive entertainment environments instead. Even the park's emptiness is being psychologically reframed as a premium feature rather than a warning sign. Empty walkways now symbolize exclusivity, comfort, and elite access instead of operational weakness or declining popularity among ordinary consumers today. Disney carefully reinforces this perception through premium systems like extra magic hours, private experiences, exclusive lounges, and expensive priority access passes. Wealthier visitors receive separation from the crowds, while regular tourists experience increasingly restricted convenience throughout their expensive stay. The strategy creates a silent class division inside the park itself. Those capable of paying more receive smoother experiences, shorter waits, and better comfort. Everyone else becomes trapped inside an increasingly expensive system optimized around monetization efficiency instead. Meanwhile, social media amplifies the illusion further. Viral ghost park videos spread across TikTok and YouTube daily, generating curiosity and panic simultaneously. But Disney executives likely see those empty visuals as proof their premium transformation strategy is succeeding. Because in modern corporate entertainment economics, emptiness no longer automatically signals failure. Sometimes emptiness signals exclusivity. Luxury hotels understand this concept perfectly. High-end airlines understand it too. Disney is now applying the exact same psychological strategy to fantasy itself. The terrifying question hiding underneath this transformation is impossible to ignore now. Has Disneyland Paris stopped selling childhood magic entirely? And has it quietly started selling economic status, social exclusivity, and algorithmically priced privilege instead of emotional memories? That is why the real crisis facing Disneyland Paris is not attendance numbers or empty squares appearing online. The deeper collapse is emotional. Loyal families increasingly feel disconnected from a place they once considered part of their childhood identity. The strongest anger toward Disneyland Paris is no longer coming from casual tourists. It is coming from the people who once defended the brand passionately for years. The loyal annual pass holders now increasingly feel abandoned by Disney itself. For decades, annual passes symbolized emotional belonging. Families returned constantly because the park felt like a second home. But today, many loyal visitors believe Disney has transformed that emotional relationship into a cold financial transaction entirely. The reservation system became the breaking point that shattered trust permanently for thousands of returning guests. Imagine paying enormous yearly membership fees, then discovering you still cannot enter the park because algorithmic availability suddenly blocks your reservation request. Many pass holders accused Disney of deliberately limiting access for loyal members while prioritizing tourists willing to purchase expensive single-day tickets, luxury hotel packages, and premium services. Loyalty increasingly became less valuable than immediate spending potential inside the park. Across France, online outrage exploded through forums, TikTok videos, YouTube reviews, and consumer discussions. Visitors accused Disney of misleading membership practices, artificial restrictions, hidden limitations, and aggressive monetization strategies designed purely to maximize short-term corporate profits instead. The emotional backlash became especially dangerous because Disneyland Paris was never built only on rides or attractions. It survived because families formed deep emotional attachments to the experience itself. Once emotional trust disappears, rebuilding loyalty becomes extremely difficult for corporations. Disney, meanwhile, continued raising prices aggressively during one of Europe's harshest cost of living crises in recent history. Annual passes became dramatically more expensive. Hotels surged upward. Priority access systems expanded. Even ordinary snacks inside the park became financially painful for families. Many European parents now describe Disneyland Paris vacations as economically exhausting instead of emotionally magical. Families increasingly spend months budgeting carefully for experiences that once felt spontaneous and accessible to ordinary middle-class households throughout Europe before inflation intensified dramatically. The food scandal only intensified the growing frustration surrounding the resort experience. Visitors regularly complain about paying enormous prices for mediocre meals, small portions, declining quality, and exhausting wait times that consume valuable hours during already expensive family vacations. A simple family meal inside Disneyland Paris can now cost nearly as much as dining at authentic restaurants in central Paris itself. Tourists increasingly question why they are paying premium luxury prices for industrial fast food quality meals instead. That perceived exploitation creates something deeply dangerous for Disney's long-term image. Families do not merely leave disappointed, they leave feeling manipulated financially. And once customers feel exploited emotionally, they become far less likely to ever return again afterward. Meanwhile, social media continuously exposes the growing gap between Disney's polished advertisements and visitor reality. Online videos increasingly showcase broken attractions, construction walls, overcrowded areas, long queues, ride shutdowns, and visibly frustrated tourists documenting disappointing experiences throughout their expensive vacations. This creates what many visitors now call the illusion problem. Disney continues marketing perfection aggressively, while guests increasingly publish evidence contradicting that fantasy online. The corporation sells flawless magic, but tourists increasingly experience operational stress and artificial commercial environments instead. And that raises the most painful emotional question surrounding Disneyland Paris today. Why are families paying luxury-level prices for an experience that increasingly feels manufactured, emotionally distant, and optimized entirely around extracting maximum spending from exhausted visitors and parents? But the deepest problem hiding underneath these frustrations is even more dangerous than angry tourists or expensive meals. Behind the castle walls, another crisis is quietly growing stronger every single year: exhausted employees and a collapsing service culture. Behind the smiling costumes and carefully rehearsed parades, Disneyland Paris is facing a growing internal crisis. Overworked employees, staffing shortages, labor disputes, and collapsing morale are slowly eroding the emotional machinery that once created genuine magic for millions. The pressure intensified dramatically after Europe's inflation crisis pushed living costs higher across France. Housing became more expensive, transportation costs increased, food prices surged. Meanwhile, many Disney cast members claimed their wages no longer matched the economic reality surrounding them daily. As tensions escalated, strikes and worker protests increasingly disrupted operations throughout the resort. Employees demanded higher salaries, improved conditions, and better treatment, while accusing Disney management of prioritizing financial performance over the well-being of the people creating the experience itself. This internal exhaustion directly affects visitors whether Disney admits it publicly or not. When workers feel emotionally disconnected, the atmosphere changes immediately. Service becomes colder, smiles feel forced, entertainment quality weakens. The emotional warmth guests once expected slowly disappears completely. Visitors increasingly notice dirtier walkways, delayed maintenance, canceled performances, understaffed restaurants, and exhausted employees struggling under operational pressure. Small problems accumulate rapidly until tourists begin feeling that something inside the park simply no longer feels emotionally alive anymore. At its core, Disneyland Paris faces a cultural collision between two completely different philosophies. American corporate management focuses heavily on efficiency, optimization, and profitability, while European labor culture places far greater importance on worker protection and emotional balance overall. That clash creates constant tension inside the resort. Disney attempts to operate with aggressive corporate performance models, while employees increasingly resist systems they believe prioritize algorithms, cost reduction, and shareholder satisfaction over human dignity and workplace sustainability entirely. At the same time, the physical infrastructure itself is beginning to show visible signs of strain. Peeling paint, aging attractions, temporary construction walls, technical malfunctions, and ride closures increasingly appear throughout sections of the resort once carefully maintained to perfection. Visitors especially notice the growing contrast between glamorous new expansion zones and deteriorating classic areas nearby. Disney aggressively markets shiny billion-euro projects online, while older sections increasingly feel neglected, outdated, and unable to maintain the immersive emotional standards guests still expect. Social media now magnifies every operational flaw instantly across the internet. A broken attraction, dirty restroom, delayed parade, or frustrated employee can become viral content within hours. Disney no longer controls the narrative surrounding guest experiences like it once did. And while Disney struggles internally, competitors across Europe continue gaining momentum rapidly. Parks like Europa-Park, Efteling, and Park Asterix increasingly attract families searching for better value, warmer service, and more emotionally authentic entertainment experiences. These rivals may lack Disney's global intellectual property empire, but many visitors increasingly describe them as more sincere, more welcoming, and less aggressively commercialized. Families often feel treated like respected guests instead of financial data points inside a monetization system. That creates the most dangerous question Disney now faces in Europe. Can Disneyland Paris survive long-term if ordinary middle-class families gradually stop trusting the emotional promise that originally made the brand culturally powerful across generations for decades? Because once emotional loyalty collapses, billion-dollar branding alone may not be enough to rebuild it. And that is exactly why Disney is preparing its biggest gamble yet, a massive $2 billion transformation designed to completely reinvent Disneyland Paris forever. Disney now believes it has found the solution to everything. A $2 billion transformation project designed to completely reinvent Disneyland Paris and restore its position as Europe's dominant entertainment destination before public trust declines even further in coming years. At the center of this gamble stands a completely new identity called Disney Adventure World. Disney is abandoning the old image of Walt Disney Studios Park and replacing it with massive immersive environments built around globally recognizable franchises and cinematic universes. The strategy is enormous in scale. Frozen expansions, Marvel zones, redesigned lakes, upgraded hotels, nighttime spectaculars, and entirely rebuilt themed areas are all part of Disney's most ambitious European restructuring project since the resort originally opened decades ago. But beneath the shiny marketing campaigns lies a much deeper corporate objective. Disney no longer focuses primarily on maximizing attendance numbers. Instead, the company increasingly prioritizes increasing guest stay duration and extracting higher spending from every single visitor entering the resort. The longer families remain trapped inside Disney's entertainment ecosystem, the more money flows into hotels, restaurants, merchandise stores, premium experiences, and digital reservation systems. The modern park increasingly resembles a controlled consumption environment instead of a traditional theme park experience. This transformation creates growing fears across Europe that Disneyland Paris is slowly becoming an economic class experience rather than a universal destination welcoming ordinary families equally. Access to convenience, comfort, and magical experiences increasingly depends entirely on spending power now. Disney executives likely believe intellectual property alone can solve these emotional problems. Frozen lands create excitement. Marvel attractions generate social media hype. New spectacles attract tourists temporarily, but giant franchise expansions cannot automatically repair emotional trust damaged over many difficult years. Because underneath the glamorous advertisements, the older frustrations still remain unresolved. Families continue complaining about aggressive pricing, disappointing food quality, exhausting queues, expensive hotels, staff dissatisfaction, and an atmosphere many visitors increasingly describe as emotionally artificial rather than magical anymore. That contradiction may become Disney's greatest strategic weakness moving forward. The company continues investing billions into external appearances, while deeper structural problems quietly continue spreading underneath the polished surface. Beautiful castles alone cannot permanently hide emotional dissatisfaction among visitors and employees. And this raises the most important philosophical question surrounding Disneyland Paris today. Can billion-euro investments truly rebuild magic once emotional trust disappears? Or does authentic wonder become impossible once customers begin viewing every experience through financial frustration and corporate monetization? Modern entertainment itself is increasingly becoming stratified by wealth across the world. Luxury concerts, premium tourism, VIP airports, exclusive experiences. Even fantasy itself now increasingly operates through economic separation, where comfort, convenience, and emotional experiences depend heavily on personal financial capacity. Disneyland Paris may still remain financially successful in the coming years. Revenue may continue rising, expansions may attract millions of tourists, but profitability alone cannot measure whether ordinary families still emotionally feel welcome inside the dream they once loved deeply. Because the real danger facing Disney is not empty pathways or declining attendance numbers. The deeper threat is emotional alienation. Families increasingly feel that the magic once built for everyone is slowly transforming into luxury entertainment designed primarily for wealthy consumers instead. And perhaps that is the darkest part of this entire story. When childhood dreams become algorithmically priced experiences controlled by spending tiers, entertainment stops feeling magical and starts reflecting the same economic inequality people already face outside the castle gates daily. So now the final question belongs to you. Would you still choose Disneyland Paris in 2026? Or are Europe's smaller parks now offering something Disney may have lost forever? Genuine happiness and emotional authenticity for ordinary families once again?